Well, welcome back to Magic String Works. So today on the workbench we have this Epiphone guitar case. Let's open it up. See what we got. Oh, one more. Hey, that's really nice. Look at that sunburst. So Les Paul style guitar. This is an Epiphone Les Paul Standard 1959. Very nice. So the owners dropped it off for a setup, but there's a problem. Right here, I think you can see, yeah, the nut on the 6th string is cracked. So he's having some issues buzzing and just overall playability. So we're gonna change this nut. We're gonna do a setup on this really pretty guitar. Stay tuned. I love this pink. Hey, isn't the pink upholstery inside really cool? Oh, here we go. Here's a replacement. This is a Graphtec Tusq nut, so I'll keep that over here. Love that pink. Nice. So we'll put this aside. And we'll get the guitar on the workbench. There we go. Really nice. I love this sunburst finish. And there's the new nut. Alright, so what are we going to do with this guitar? Well, we're going to do a setup, so string change and a setup. The owner uses 9 to 42, so we'll change that as well. You know, we'll check the electronics and things, but like I showed you initially, we really have a problem with the nut right there, right? It's cracked off. And so we're going to replace that with a Graphtec nut, which the owner has supplied. And it looks like it fits. We'll double check that, of course. So this is really nice. It's an Epiphone Les Paul Standard, so like a 1959 reissue. It's hard to tell online, but from the serial number it starts with an F. So I'll show you that again on the back if you can see it. So that generally means it was made in Japan, not Korea or China. And best I can tell, it's either a 2003 or a 2013. But any case, really nice. And the owner also says that this guitar is spec'd with Gibson pickups. So these are actually Gibson pickups. So that's really cool. All right, well, let's take some initial measurements, check it out, and then we'll change that nut. So we'll check the neck relief and 7th fret. Like to see between 8 and 10 thousandths of an inch. So here, again, I'll do it on the workbench, press down around the last fret. Yeah, there's not much relief there. So 10,000 scrapes under there. We'll do the 8. Same thing. So that's pretty good. I mean, as long as when you're playing you don't have any buzzing. I'll do it in the playing position for those who like that. Same result. Yeah, it needs more relief for sure. We'll check the truss rod in a minute. Action. I'll just use a feeler gauge. So Gibson specs would have 5/64 on the bass side and 3/64 on the treble. I kind of like 4 all across, but let's see where we are here. So this is 4/64, so using my string gauge. Yeah, it's just passing under there. And let's see about the treble side. Same thing. So this is actually set up how I like them. Yeah, a little higher than 4, maybe 5, which isn't bad at all on the bass side because you do strum a little harder, right? Yeah. So we have about 5 4/64 as the initial setup. So, okay, that's good. These pickups I can tell are way too high, basically touching the covers. So what I'll do is I'm going to drop these down right now, knowing that they are too high anyways. So I'll sort of make it even with the pickup ring. And we can just bring them up afterwards. Same thing there. They don't need to be that high. And if your strings are touching your pickup covers, well, you should know you have a problem. Okay, let's have a look at this bridge for a second. So just having a quick look at the bridge, there's definitely intonation here, so that's fine. But, you know, again, under the realm of things that, you know, I question why, you know, this bridge, the adjustment screws are facing backwards. Sometimes they're facing forward. And I suspect that some people flip the bridge around, you know, at some point, and, you know, they end up intonating or doing something that way. But, you know, this is a little difficult to get in there with a small screwdriver. Not as easy as perhaps getting from the front here, right? But anyways, it is what it is. We'll start like this, see how the intonation is. I just want to check and make sure that the strings are not catching on the back of the edge of the bridge, and I can pass a piece of paper through just barely. And that's another reason why you shouldn't really have the screws at the back. See how the string could, if your tailpiece was lower, your string could hit that screw, so it's better having it at the front. But this is how the guitar came, so like I said, I'll intonate it and see how it goes. We're not touching, so that's a good thing. Alright, so last thing to check will be the action at the first fret, the nut action. So 18 to 20 thousandths, it'll be very nice. I'll use 18 thousandths, check that. Okay, now this is the string where we have the broken nut. I cannot get that under there. Let's try the first string. Yeah, it just goes, I mean, it slides under everything. I suspect it's probably about 16 thousandths or less. Let's play. Yeah. So when I put a new nut on, I like to set it up for 18 thousandths on a guitar. You know, 20 thousandths on a bass. So, yeah, that's definitely an issue. And the string might just fall off if you play it too hard. Here, I'll show you a little closer. You can really see that string's holding on just barely. Just pop right out. And if we strum it, a little bit of ringing, but that's mostly because there's almost no neck relief at all. But, you know, that's no good, so we'll get rid of that. Just gonna check the truss rod before we do anything else. Okay. I'll get this truss rod cover off. Les Paul Standard 1959. What would a 1959 Les Paul cost? Let me know in the comments. Like a real one. 40, 50 grand? More or less? Obviously depending on what shape it's in. Be a lot of money, right? Nonetheless. Grab that. There we go. Okay. Nice cover. Wow, that looks pretty clean in there. I don't think anything's ever been down there. And it might be 5mm, not a 4. Let's see. Here's a 5. That's too big. Here's a 4mm. Yeah. So we want to release this a little bit because it's too straight. I'm going to find the spot. There we go. Oh, it's turning. Okay. I don't imagine we'll have an issue with that, but famous last words, right? So I just released the truss rod a little bit, right? So I'm just going to check here with an 8/1000 feeler gauge. Yeah, that's not scraping hard anymore, so that's good. So it works. Nice. All right. Okay, I'm right down to the final steps here. Just when you sand the sides off, the ears, I always do the same, try and keep it, level, even, and the same amount of strokes, flip it over, do the other side. So I was doing like 10 strokes initially, and then checking, and then brought it down to 5. And as I get closer, down to 2, and maybe just like 1 extra one. So anyways, fuss around a little bit, and you get a nice fit like that. So I'm happy with that. That's good. So I'll put a little bit of glue in there to hold it in place, and then we'll do some work on the frets and the fretboard. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know I'm not a huge fan of super glue, CA glue, so I'm just going to put a couple of dabs of good old, carpenter's glue, this wood glue, and I really think that's all you need here. Again, I'm just going to put it on the face. And contrary to popular belief, this stuff does stick to plastic, but what happens is it will release a lot easier in the future. So I get that in place. Now, of course, it doesn't set as quickly as CA glue does, but that's okay. I've got some work to do on the frets, so we'll let this sit here. So that's nice and flush. I like that. This side, nice and flush. Good. Okay, looking good. Okay, so it has a very light fret wear on the first and second, and pretty much nothing else. So, not sure if there's been work done on this before, but sort of looks like it. So I'm going to give it a clean with some simple green here. Start. Swirl that around with. Oh. Wow, that's not a good thing, eh? Should be a little more careful. Put that back. The glue had not set yet, as we can see. Okay, make sure not to touch that, Steve. Well, that front board looked dirtier than it was, so anyways. So I'm going to get the fret erasers out. We don't need the 150, I'm going to use the 180, the 400, and then the 1000. And I like to just move the next support close to where I'm working. And again, try and do the same amount of strokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just keep going. Now the first fret, because you're doubling up each time, doesn't get as much, right? So I always go back and give it, another 10 strokes. So, okay, we'll get through all these, and then we'll do a little polishing up at the end. Okay, now that I'm done with the fret erasers, I'll hit this again, eh? Okay, now that I'm done with the fret erasers, just going to clean that off a bit. Just going to get some 4/0 steel wool and a fretboard protector here, and just give each fret about 10-12 passes here. Gives it a nice little shine. Okay, well, we'll finish up with a little Dunlop 65 conditioning oil. I like to put it on, leave it on about 30-45 seconds, a minute at the most. We get in there. Alright, the oil's on, the frets have been cleaned up with the fret erasers. Yeah, everything looks a lot better, right? Amazing what a little oil will do. Again, this is not a full polishing job, it's just really getting rid of any major sort of dents and scratches, but nice and smooth, everything looks good. Alright, well, let's put some strings on this thing. Okay, so the client has requested 9, so I've got these D'Addarios here, 9 to 42s. Get those on, put them on. Okay, I'm going to put this cloth right here. Happens to be a Gibson cloth. Protect the body. So because these tailpieces, this one in particular, it is branded Epiphone, they do have little springs, so let's see if this stays in. Actually, I'm going to give this a little polish here while it's off. And just clean it up a little bit. There we go. So this should stay in place, so let's have a look. Okay, good. Sometimes, when you don't have springs or set screws, of course, it's going to want to flop out. So it's always a good idea then to start with the first and sixth strings. Get those in place, and then that way it holds the tailpiece there for the rest, but in this case that's not going anywhere, so that's pretty good. I'll leave the cloth there though. I'm still going to put the first and sixth strings on because the nut, we just glued the nut in, so I want to make sure that it doesn't move around or anything like that, so we'll help it stay where it needs to. Alright, here we are on the last string, the 1, 2, 3, 4 fourth string. So I'm going to pull this through. I'm going to get that wound around a bit. Oop, this way. And just going to make sure that the winding goes underneath the post hole. Don't need anything fancy here, luthier's knots, anything like that. Just make sure it goes underneath the post hole and traps the string coming through, and you're good. Oh, it just popped out of the saddle. There we go. Get that in the nut. And push this up a little bit. But I like to take a screwdriver and just get under the bottom of the wrapping a bit. Just make sure everything's nice and snug. There we go. Not worry about getting it up to pitch at the moment. Sometimes you take some needle nose pliers and you can get in here. Just squeeze that. There we go. That helps it settle. Alright, so here we are a couple of days later. This has been sitting here with new strings on it. I just lowered the action a little bit to the Gibson spec, which is 5/64 on the bass side at the 12th fret, 3/64 on the treble side. So plays pretty nice up here. I don't think there's enough neck relief, so I'm going to check that. So capo the first fret, and I like to see, well, at least 10 thousandths. So I'll push down here, at the last fret, and the 7th fret. You should be able to hear that scraping. Let's try 8 thousandths. Yeah. So we need some neck relief. Alright, so let me adjust that. Okay, so this is a 4mm truss rod. So I'm going to use the T-wrench here. So we want to loosen it to get more relief. So I'm going to turn it, well, let's say about a quarter turn. A little less than that. You can feel it's getting loose already. I think this is a two-way, that's right. So right now, there's no tension at all, which is not a good thing. But I'm just going to put a little bit of, there we go, just as it starts to add some tension. We're going to check it now. 10 thousandths. There we go, that's better. So I like that relief. You can just hear it scraping. I'll try the 8. Yeah, so we're right around 9-10 thousandths, so that's good. Take that off. So you don't want to leave the truss rod disengaged. This is a two-way truss rod, so if I keep going counterclockwise, I'm actually going to, put a big bow in the neck. And if I turn it clockwise, I'm going to put an up bow in the neck. So you always want to have some tension there. So I'm just putting it just where it starts to grab, and we'll leave it like that. I'll check it again after, but for now that looks good. So the action, I had set it to 5/64, so using my string gauges here, just at 5 on the bass side, 3/64 on the treble side. And again, these string gauges are available. You can buy them on my website, plus the pickup height gauge as well. Be some new versions of these coming out soon too, so stay tuned. Of course, we've changed the nut, so that's looking good. I've sanded a little bit. These are always so well done already. You just need to knock off these hard corners. So I don't expect that this is going to be perfect because it's a new nut. So I like to see 18 thousandths with an electric guitar. So if we put that underneath the first fret and the sixth string here, I think you can see the amount of bounce, right? And if you play the string with the feeler gauge on top of the fret and it's not giving you that rattling noise, then you know there's enough space, right? So we want to drop this down. So that's pretty consistent on each of these. Maybe the first string. Yeah, the first string there's not as much. That's normal. Okay. So I've got the groove bars here from Hosco. And I like to use these. So they come in various sizes. So that's the thickness of them. Like this one is 1.42 millimeters or 0.056 inches. I like to use inches for this measurement, but you can use millimeters if you like. 65 thousandths of an inch, 1.65 millimeters, so on and so on. So I end up using mostly the 56 thousandth, 1.42, and the 50 thousandths. These are new ones, so they're not marked up or anything. So what you do is you place that under the strings at the nut, and you'll see there's space, and you can gauge how much you need to cut off. So you're looking, okay. So if I put this under there, and then I take my nut files, which I didn't have out yet, and I should. So I'm going to take a file here, and when you go in the nut slot, you will actually be stopped by the groove bar, right? So I'm going to pull that out. We're going to loosen up the 6th string, expose the nut slot. I'm going to put that groove bar down. You see it's all black, right? So you take the appropriate file here, and then just start going until you start to touch, and you'll feel it and hear it. You start to touch the groove bar. We're pretty close, so it's a way of, not overshooting, your target. Oh, there we go. Oh, starting to get there, just about there. So I haven't touched it yet, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to test it out with the string first again, just to make sure we're getting there. So we want 18 thousandths. Yeah, it's definitely lower, but you can tell, right? So I haven't touched the groove bar, so this hasn't gone down far enough. So, oh, I just felt it. There we go. It's nicking it just a bit. It's hard to see maybe, but just a little nick here on the edge of the groove bar. So I'll stop there, put the string back in. Get it up to pitch, of course. And we'll check how we did. That's pretty good. Could still go lower. It's probably around 20, which again, I don't mind 20, because these will wear in as they get played. Okay, I'm all done. Filing the nut slots. I might fine tune them a little bit as we go along, but I ended up using the 50 thousandths, 1.27 millimeter, a little more, which is good. So, you press on the 3rd, then press the 1st fret down, and really it should be, just about touching that 1st fret, which is about 18 thousandths. So, yeah, it's nice. And again, the nut wears right over time. Not so much with a Les Paul in the sense that you don't have a tremolo, but it'll still wear. So I'm, off camera, I'm just going to file off and sand some of this excess nut here now, because we've brought the nut slot down. You don't want it all the way deep in there like that. Here, I'll show you. You want to have, the top of the string sort of being at the top of the nut slot. That's usually pretty good. Okay, I'll do that, and then we'll continue with the setup. Okay, now that we have the nut action sorted out, we have to go back, and we have to check the neck relief and the string height. Not sure if it would have changed too much, but we will check, right? So I want to see about 10 thousandths, 9 to 10 thousandths at the 7th fret. Let's try 8. Yeah. So the lower neck relief, the neck relief is definitely lower, a little bit, but for playing it, we don't seem to have any issues. So I like to have it a little more neck relief. So I'm just going to add a little bit, and it's a two-way truss rod, so we can put a little bit of relief into it. Check that again. And, you know, I'll keep checking this over the next day. The owner's going to come by tomorrow. So, yeah, that's better. Okay. So we'll leave that there. Now, we had put 5/64 at the 12th fret on the bass side. So, let's check that. Yeah, it's down a little bit, so I'm going to raise that up a touch. Good. And of course, we can only adjust the first and second string heights. First and sixth strings, sorry. Oh, that's good. So I will check that here with the string action ruler as well, right? So we'll put that up here in the playing position. That's 5 and just under 4. Which I like. 3 is really low, so I'll let the owner decide if they want to go lower than that, but it plays really nice right now, so. And I'll check all the frets too. So people will say you have to check it in the playing position, but you know what? When it's on the bench like this, and I support, you know, the neck like right in the middle here, right around the 7th fret, if it makes any buzzing noises or frets out like this, I know in the playing position it doesn't, most likely. So it really is fine to check it this way. And there's nothing stopping you from doing it in the playing position as well. You know, you come in here, that was me. Come back down. Yep, E again. So just flip it up, do it in the playing position if you're more comfortable or want to do that instead. You can even just rest it on the neck rest and do it. Like I said, if it's not buzzing or fretting out when it's flat like that, supported right in the middle, it's most likely not going to do it in the playing position. Do a quick little intonation check here. Make sure we're in tune. We're a little flat. Again, these are new strings. Oh, just a little bit sharp. Tiniest bit sharp. B is pretty good. G is a little sharp tuning. Sharp. The D is definitely sharp tuned. It's never going to be perfect. See, it's a little flat. Again, that could be just the tuning a bit. Yeah, the tuning's off here. So new strings, you know, I've stretched them a bunch of times, but it takes a while. A little flat. So, tiny adjustments to be done. Again, like I said, it's never going to be perfect. I say that and the E is good. Again, you can check it in the playing position. So just a little bit sharp, a little sharp, sharp. That's okay. A little sharp. And the E was pretty good there. So I'll make the little adjustments. We'll do one of them. So the 6th string E is good. The A, a little flat. Okay, so if it's a little flat, we need to sharpen it, so we need to move the saddle forward. So again, we're going to go to these little screws here. And we're going to take some tension off the string. Lift it up a bit. I'm just going to move it forward, you know, about a couple of millimeters. You just do it slowly, you know, and inch up on it, sneak up on it. Tuning's a touch flat. There we go. Not bad. Okay, I will adjust it a little more forward. Okay. Don't have much more room to go in that saddle, so we'll get this tuned. Yeah, I could use a little more. Okay, well, it's back and forth, right? So I'm going to do each string, double check them. Okay, well, we're at the last adjustment, which is the pickup height, and if you remember, I had dropped this down quite a bit. So we're going to take the pickup height gauge here, and we want to see 1/8 on the bass, 3/32 on the treble, and you push down the last string, and you see I can't get the 1/8. Oh, the back is good, but the neck is not, and we'll flip this over. That has to come up a touch. It's pretty good. So it's really just the neck pickup that we need to drop down a little more even. A little surprised, but let's try that again. There we go, that's better. That's good. 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 Okay, well, that's it for adjustments. I think I'll just check the electronics, make sure they're clean. Okay, let's plug this in to my bench amp. Good. We have some tone. Yeah. And the selector switch, so this should be just the neck. Should be both. This should just be the bridge. We're good. Okay. So that's it for this Epiphone. Again, I'm going to let this sit overnight, check it again tomorrow. The owner's coming by to pick it up. But it's a nice guitar, really nice. Easy to set up. I'm sure it plays really well. I like the specs. These tuners are really nice too. They feel really good in their fingers, so that's always a bonus. I'm going to put this truss rod cover back on. Get the screws in. So tell me what you think of these Epiphones. Do you have one? Have you played one before? Do you like Epiphones in general? This one apparently is made in Japan, so it might be a little higher quality than some of the Chinese versions that we see these days. But yeah, let me know what you think. Alright, take care. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video, okay? Alright, bye for now.